What's that? Out in space, it's a station with a T-Rex face, firing lasers and playing games and killing all those herbivores. Out beyond the atmosphere, he's collecting stuff and striking fear. Come on board and grab a beer for gameplay vids and retro cheer. T-Rex Space Station.
Hi guys, it's Ben here from T-Rex Space Station. How's everyone doing? Firstly, I'm sorry that I haven't done a video in a few weeks. I've been really busy revising for a pretty important exam, which I've just managed to get out of the way on Sunday. But it actually took me a few days to get back to normality after that. I don't know, I just felt a little bit tired and fuzzy-headed and wasn't quite in the right headspace to make a video, but I'm certainly feeling back to my old self now and really keen to get going with the YouTube channel again. So I don't know about you, but one of the things that I love to watch on YouTube is people talking passionately about things. It doesn't have to just be games, it can be other things. I've certainly bought games and books and things based on just hearing people talking about them in front of a camera and telling me what it is that they like about them and why I should get them myself. And I thought it would be quite fun today to do something pretty similar. So I'm going to talk about a game, a CD, a film and a book. And I'd like you guys to do a video response and pick your own and just tell me, you know, it could be a game that you've really liked, a game that you want to recommend, you know, a CD that means something to you or that inspired you, just stuff that you like. But I thought it would be nice to kind of branch out from just video games, shock horror. I do sometimes browse other types of media other than just video games. I know that's very hard to believe. Certainly spend a hell of a lot of time playing games. But anyway, I'm waffling, so let's get started. Seeing as this is a video game channel, I thought I'd start with the game. Might as well kick things off easily. The game that I've gone for is Shadow of the Colossus. Now I'm sure that most of you have heard of this, most of you have probably played this. It's a PlayStation 2 game and it's pretty old now. I think it had a re-release on a HD re-release on the PS3, which I didn't actually play because I don't have a PS3, but this game really just blew my mind. You know, every now and then there's a title that comes out and it just does things completely differently. It's unique and that makes you take a step back and think, wow, this is not just a game but an experience or a piece of art. And Shadow of the Colossus was one of those titles. I played it absolutely hungrily from start to finish. I absolutely loved it, and anyone who saw me playing it was like, what on earth is this game? And they wanted to play it too. It really took us by surprise, and you know, I think that one of the things that really surprised me about it was the sheer scale of the enemies. You know, they're absolutely huge, and just the attention to detail and effort that went into designing the bosses and enemies in this game, it was mind-blowing. You know, the focus was just such a creative outlet. Each one of the bosses has got its own personality, its own design, its own weaknesses, its own strengths, and the trick was really learning the way to exploit those and to kill the enemies. But actually, a lot of the time I don't feel afraid of in games. It's like, yeah, just shoot loads of bad guys, get through the level. This is one of the few games where I actually felt kind of in awe of the monsters that I was killing. And yeah, pretty afraid of them. I mean, I can remember when I first approached, I always hate underwater stuff. It's always sea bosses and sea levels that freak me out in games. I don't know why, it's just creepy, isn't it? The first time when I had to go kill the eel boss, the eel monster in the ocean, it was terrifying. I could see it just swimming underneath the surface and I was like, oh my god, I'm too afraid, I don't want to do this. And you know, it really was fearful. You're such a small person compared to these massive, giant, elegant beasts. And you know, it wasn't just the enemies though. The level design, the environments, the beautiful oceans, the waterfalls, the scenery, and just the ambience, the feeling of it, the atmosphere. It was just an unbelievable game, and if you've not played this, please, I really would urge you to play it. You'll know why I was raving about it so much. I don't think it's particularly expensive to buy online. You can probably get it second hand quite cheap. It was by the team that made the game Ico, which I've got here as well, and I've had a little dabble with this week just to remind myself what it was like, which is quite a cool game too. But I actually played this first, and you know, everything pales in comparison to this. This is just an absolutely fantastic game. So yeah, Shadow of the Colossus, that's the game done with. Now we're going into unfamiliar territory of non-gaming related stuff. Okay, I'll stop making a big deal out of it. Right, the CD then. It's Iron Maiden, it's the X Factor. Now, if you guys know me, you'll know how much I absolutely love Iron Maiden. They're one of my favourite bands, one of the bands that inspired me to play guitar. A lot of my guitar soloing skills and things come from listening to Iron Maiden records. And I've had a really long history with the band, and you know, I've got all of their albums. I've seen them live 4 times, I think. And I still love just to jam on guitar and play some of their tunes even today. They're one of the best bands in the world as far as I'm concerned. They're one of the biggest heavy metal bands, and they're also one of the bands that did it first, you know, that new wave of British heavy metal, as they call it. And they've had a very long career and a lot of changes, and I know some of you will probably say it's blasphemy to pick an album here, an Iron Maiden album that doesn't have Bruce Dickinson on it. I mean, Bruce Dickinson, yeah, he's a great guy, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love some of the CDs that he's done, but for me, this is one of the Iron Maiden records with Blaze Bayley, who was Bruce's replacement when he left after Fear of the Dark, I think, wasn't it? And for me, this is the album that I listened to over and over and over again when I was a kid. I must have listened to this album hundreds of times. That's no exaggeration. It's funny, when you were a kid, you'd be able just to sit tight and just listen to a CD and do nothing else. Now when you're an adult, it tends to be that you're busy, so you'll listen to the music while doing other things, you know, while playing games or while doing work or while out and about. But when I was a kid, I used to put CDs on and listen to them in and of themselves and do nothing else and just really soak the music in. But for me, this album, you know, I didn't mind Blaze Bayley. His vocals work for this record. I mean, I think that he struggled to cover Bruce's range when they were touring, but his vocal range was dark and lower. And this is a very dark record, and I think this was the start of the modern Maiden, where they've always had progressive elements, but the sound here became darker, heavier, and part of that more modern Maiden that went on to do, you know, Brave New World and some of those other albums after that. The first song, Sign of the Cross, is one of my favourite Iron Maiden songs. It's a really long, you know, I think it's a 11-minuter, and it's so progressive, you know, it really is progressive, and there's some great time changes, the guitar melodies are fantastic, and as I said before, it's a very dark album. It deals with some pretty dark stuff, you know, the end of the world, soldiers struggling with psychological issues after the war, all sorts of really gritty things. And I think that, you know, Maiden started, you know, as a lot of heavy metal bands did, writing quite fantastical stuff, you know, about battles and all the rest. And of course there are things on this about battles, but from a different angle, more about the psychological impact of war and things. And I just liked it. It's brooding, it's dark, and it's addictive, and I can still listen to this album today without batting an eyelid. There are some albums that you cane and you can't go back to because it's like, I've just done it too much. But I can still come back to the X Factor and still just blows me away. I mean, yes, sure, Brave New World, when Bruce came back, is phenomenal, one of the best Maiden records, but this one just holds a personal spot for me. And, you know, I didn't have any of those preconceptions about, you know, Blaze Bayley coming in and Bruce leaving. I just listened to this as a kid and thought it was great. I've actually met Blaze Bayley. He played a free gig in a pub near me, and got a photograph with him. He's a really nice guy, actually, and I'd encourage you guys to support Blaze now that he's out of Maiden and doing his own solo stuff, because it can't be easy, you know, living on after being in such a big band. Right, film then. Yep, it's Blade Runner, and this is the final cut edition. I think there's so many different cuts and releases of this film. Well, I mean, I don't know how many there are exactly. But I think this is the definitive one with the extended stuff. Now, this film is based, I'm pretty sure it's based on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is a great book that I would recommend. But this is really one of my favourite films ever. It's the definitive sci-fi film for me. I must have watched this, you know, just short of 10 times. And I've always loved films that are kind of brooding and atmospheric and have, you know, good atmospheric music. And this film just creates an atmosphere. It creates a brooding, tense, futuristic atmosphere. And, you know, I just love watching it. There's something peaceful about it. I go into a kind of place. And I think the music was, excuse me, a little burp there. The music was by a band called Vangelis, and I think they got it absolutely spot on for this. I've always enjoyed films that explore the concept of what it is to be human and sort of synthetic or bionic life, you know. And you know the plot to this film: Deckard chasing after the clones, the robots, and they get scarily like humans in this film, and that's what I like, those kind of borderlines between what it is to be a person and what it is to be a machine. And this film really explores those things in a subtle way, but it's there. you know, and there is actually kind of the idea of love between the two, between the human and the robot, and I like all of those kind of things. I've always loved that sort of exploration of what it is to be a person, what it is to love, what it is to have a soul. And, you know, apart from that, there's a lot of good action here. You know, there's plenty of fighting and shooting to keep you interested, and also some little touches of philosophy. And, you know, what the last scene in the film when he's lying on the rooftop in the rain, it's just really beautiful, and it kind of makes you think, I don't know, it just captures a really nice, restful feeling. So, I mean, I'm sure that most of you have seen this film, but if you haven't, I would really recommend checking it out, and you'll be surprised. It's old, it's an 80s movie. It's surprising how some of these films hold up so damn well, and actually this has inspired so many more modern sci-fi films. We actually haven't really got away from the original ideas that are explored here very much. You know, the concept was so strong that I don't really feel like we've necessarily moved on or dealt with this concept to completion yet. But this for me is the definitive sci-fi android type movie, and the one that I keep coming back to, so yeah, check it out. Right, ending with a book. I've not gone for something video gamey or metal-y or you know, sci-fi here. I've gone for something a bit different because I thought it'd be interesting to put a curveball in. This book's called The Unbearable Lightness of Being, and it's by Milan Kundera. And often I tend to just buy the same authors over and over again. I read loads of Terry Pratchett and things and just buy his new ones whenever they come out. But I was feeling kind of in a random mood, and I just saw this book on the shelf and thought, you know what, I'm going to try buying a random book and just see what happens there. And actually it was one of the best decisions that I've ever made. This book really, really inspired me. And I don't know how I would describe it. It's probably a love story, a very dry love story with elements of comedy in there. But it mixes into the love story a great deal of philosophy and explores, you know, what it is to be a person, what it is to be involved in time, what life is. It captures the human condition of being transient in a perfect way. And some of the insights in this book just really took me aback and shocked me. You know, it goes from talking about love to talking about the nature of time and the afterlife and all these kinds of things are just woven in really, really well. And it follows the story of a doctor called Thomas, basically in his love life and exploits. It's quite a sorry tale in its way. It doesn't end particularly happily. But very rarely does a book hit me so much that I have to stop and think about what I've read that day, and I was really sad when it ended. But I would read it in the day and in bedtime, just think about what I'd read, because it was really so profoundly put. Just the angle that he gets on things. So again, it wasn't very expensive. You can probably find this online for less than a tenner. So if you're interested in something non-geeky, well, I don't know, that's just a word, isn't it? What does that even mean? Something non-gamey. Maybe go check this out, and maybe you'll be as inspired by it as I was. It inspired me to want to start writing again, and you know, it's just got such a great, insightful angle to things. It's apparently a dark and brilliant achievement according to Ian McEwan. So there you go. Right, so guys, I really want you guys to now pick a game, a CD, a film, and a book. Of course, a CD can just be an album, it could be a vinyl or whatever medium you want to listen to music on. But yes, give me some recommendations, tell me what you're passionate about, tell me about stuff that's inspired you. I think it'll be fun to see your video responses or read your comments. Take care guys, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.